Good morning. I'm going to go through in the second video in the Northern Ireland series to look at Terence O'Neill, the Prime Minister of Northern Ireland. We're going to look at who he is, we're going to look at what he wanted, we're going to look at the difficulties he had, and we're going to look at his economic and political policies, okay, as well as the reactions to those. So, O'Neill, to start off with, was made Prime Minister in 1963. And he's a Unionist Prime Minister, and he's a Prime Minister of Northern Ireland. Remember, Northern Ireland is a reasonably new state. It's set up in 1920s, okay, so it's a reasonably new state. He wanted to modernise Northern Ireland politically and economically. That word modernise is really, really key for O'Neill, because he wanted to transform society to make it much more modern than it had been, okay, and he called it changing the face of Ulster. So what did he do? Well, he aimed to create links with the Republic of Ireland. He met up with this man here, Sean Lemass, the Irish Prime Minister, or Taoiseach, and it was the first meeting in 40 years. He also reached out to Northern Nationalists, to Catholics. Remember, Catholics in the last video you realise made up 35% of the population of Northern Ireland. That's a really big population within the country. So he reached out to those as well too. Okay, so O'Neill himself then, he became Prime Minister in 1963, as you know, and he becomes leader of the largest Unionist party in Northern Ireland. In fact, the only Unionist party in Northern Ireland. It's the official Unionist party. You have to know this name, okay? The official Unionist party, OUP. There's no other Unionist parties in Northern Ireland. There's no DUP, no UUP. It's the OUP, and you have to know this, okay? Very, very important. Because it's the only Unionist party in Northern Ireland, that means it completely dominates. You know that over 60% of the population were Protestant at this stage, so they dominated politics and basically led majority rule. Okay, O'Neill promised Northern Ireland big changes for everybody. However, he was weakened from the very beginning by a number of important reasons. Okay, and you have to know these reasons. There's basically three of them. Okay, so the first reason was O'Neill was chosen to be leader. He was chosen to be Prime Minister. He was not elected to that position from the party faithful. Okay, so they didn't have an election to decide, well, you're going to be leader. He was chosen by a very few senior leaders. He wasn't popularly elected from within the party, and he wasn't popular within the party as well too. He was a little bit standoffish to some, and most of the party faithful, the grassroots we would call them, wanted another unionist called Brian Faulkner. This man down here in the corner. Okay, so Brian Faulkner. Brian Faulkner is much more grassroots. He had a business background, and he appealed to sort of grassroots Northern Ireland people much more than O'Neill at the time. Okay, the next is part of the reason why people didn't warm to him is because he's from a different background. Now, this name O'Neill is very, very, very old. You could probably say he's got the most credentials to be leader of someone in Ulster, or part of Ulster, because this name goes way, way back centuries. However, his background was quite wealthy, very rich, and he was educated in Eton, very posh public school just in Windsor. He wasn't very popular with many unionists. They saw him as being a different class and a different breed, so that went against him as well too. And even whenever he's speaking on television, he came across as being very patrician English, which didn't suit a lot of people. Okay, the last thing that was difficult was, despite this background, you might actually think he might have been quite conservative. He actually wanted massive change. He wanted to transform Northern Ireland, to take it into a new age. This modernisation is one word you have to try to remember. Okay, so what does he want to do? Well, he wants to reach out to people in the Republic of Ireland, to nationalists in the north, and he wants to also transform Northern Ireland politically and economically, take it into a new age and get away from those older industries that had sustained it for so long. This big change, rapid change, made some more conservative unionists not really trust O'Neill. Okay, so remember these three things. He wasn't elected by the party membership, he came from a wealthy background, and he's a liberal reformer. If you remember these three things, it'll definitely help you. Okay, next. Why does he want to have better relations with the Republic of Ireland? Well, there's a number of reasons. First of all, economics. Okay, economics. 1960s. He wants to transform things completely. He realizes that the island of Ireland could actually benefit on both sides from more cooperation. This can happen in terms of electricity, in terms of tourism, in terms of trade and transport. These are actually things after the Good Friday Agreement that they really did benefit from. You can see the motorway to Dublin, you can see increased tourism across both parts of Ireland, and increased trade and shared electric. These are all things that we all rely on now and are coordinated now as well. To have better relations also mean reaching out to people in Northern Ireland, the Catholic population of Northern Ireland. If you can have better relations north and south, they're going to feel more welcome. And for O'Neill, remember, he is a unionist, so for his unionist opinion, he thinks if I can make Catholics more at home in Northern Ireland, then they are going to not want a united Ireland. Okay, simple as that. They might actually vote for him, he even thought. And he wants to share resources. He knows that the resources north and south that they are better cooperating on rather than fighting over. Okay, so those three different things are reasons he wants to step ahead and make better relations. Okay, good. Now, O'Neill's economic reforms then. So if you know anything about Northern Ireland, you'll know that it actually relied on two massive industries which made it very rich at the start of the 20th century. In fact, Belfast was a boom town at the start of the 20th century, even rivaling Dublin. So his well publicised reforms aimed at improving and modernising the economy of Northern Ireland, which had been very badly affected by the decline of two of its big industries: shipbuilding in Harland and Wolff, it used to be the biggest shipyard in the world, and made Belfast very wealthy. And the other thing is a material, it's linen, and Belfast was known as Linenopolis. Massive amounts of wealth came from linen. It was the linen capital of the world. However, if you know your economics, you'll know that shipbuilding, a lot of ships began to get built across the world in places like Japan and Korea and Germany, and they were built more efficiently, more effectively, and more cheaply. Okay, at that point as well too. So that all went across the world. Linen was replaced by more durable materials as well, like nylon and synthetics, and it lost and really declined. So you can see all these old linen warehouses around Belfast. It sort of reminds you of the wealth that was there, but these are definitely declining. He also felt that Northern Ireland would be supported by nationalists if they were actually better off economically. If they have more pounds in their pocket, they're not going to want to go to join up with Republic of Ireland. Okay, all right. So he aims to do a couple of things. This is usually quite a big essay, this part, or quite a big question at least. So these are the things that he does, and you have to get these in your head. The first thing he does was he sets up the Ministry of Development. This was started up to plan, encourage and grow the Northern Ireland economy, to promote economic growth. Okay, so quite a big thing. He also divides Northern Ireland into 5 different economic zones. Remember that number, actually 5 economic zones. Okay, and the aim is to attract investment into these zones from across the world. Okay, try to attract factories, try to attract investment from across the world. Okay, the next thing he does is he pumps money into the economy, and I'm talking massive amounts of money. It's a lot of money. For those times it was £900 million. £900 million that was invested in Northern Ireland industries to help them to grow. That's a huge amount of money. Okay, you're talking now in terms of billions for that. Alright, try to remember that term as well, that number. Okay, 900 million, very important. Right, the next thing he does is he established links with trade unions. Now, trade unions, if you know anything about those, even from your Nazi Germany, you'll know that trade unions are to protect workers, and they're also, their biggest tool is to go on strike, and strikes can actually harm the economy. So his aim was to create better relationships with trade unions so there'd be no strikes, so as people would come to invest in Northern Ireland from across the world. The big thing about this one is, though, that the biggest trade union was the Irish Trade Union Congress, and it was based in Dublin. So for unionists to actually make links with that trade union was quite a big thing, and they did make links. They made quite successful links. Okay, next, transport. He wants to boost the infrastructure of Northern Ireland, so he does this in a number of ways. He actually builds Ireland's first motorway. The first motorway in Ireland was built, the M1, M2. He also invested a little bit in the railways, and he built a new airport at Aldergrove near Antrim, near where I come from. So Aldergrove is where the new airport was built, and a very busy airport it would have been back then too. Next, university is key as well too. There is Queen's University. It's been there since the 1800s, but he decides Northern Ireland needs a new university to make it more modern and to get more graduates. So he aims to invest in that. Now, the problem with this is he invests in a university up at Coleraine, and that's quite a political decision. Okay, so we'll look at that later on. The next thing he does is he decides to build a city. So new towns were being built across England, and the aim of this is to get rid of the slums in the big cities and to pull people out of the big cities into new towns and cities. And Northern Ireland, they create a city called Craigavon. Again, this is going to be a political thing. We'll look at this a little bit later on, but Craigavon was going to be a new city. Hopefully they hoped at the time that it would be sort of Northern Ireland's third city after Belfast and Derry, Londonderry. And then the last thing is he sets up the Economic Council. And who does he put in charge? He puts Brian Faulkner in charge. Now, Brian Faulkner is a rival, but he's also a very shrewd businessman as well too, so that's quite a good thing to put him in charge of this. Okay, so these are all your economic policies. We call these policies, and you have to know these policies. Okay, remember these as much as possible. This would be a big question, and it's asked quite a lot in exams. Alright, so what are the results of this? Well, there are a number of really good results. Okay, so the first thing is that foreign companies did come into Northern Ireland from across the world. Remember, there's quite a big, prosperous, well-skilled population in Northern Ireland at the time, and companies were attracted by grants as well too. So you've got ICI coming over, they make Dulux paint. You've got Grundy Electricals coming over, you've got DuPont coming over to invest in Derry, Londonderry, they're still there. And you've got Michelin has only just closed down their tyre plant near Ballymena recently. Okay, so lots and lots of companies come from across the world to invest millions of pounds in Northern Ireland. It's highly successful. Alright, the next one then. So the infrastructure is also invested in. They build motorways, as you've heard, and they link large sections of Northern Ireland, make transport quick and easy, and it looks like a very modern economy at that stage. Alright, thirdly, they actually built Aldergrove Airport, again quite a big international airport with lots of links at the time. They developed an oil refinery in Belfast, Belfast Harbour. That meant that Northern Ireland wasn't as reliant on getting supplies coming in and out, so that was quite a big success. Still there as well too. And they developed electricity links with the Republic of Ireland. This did happen as part of the meeting with O'Neill and Lemass. And the sixth thing, very importantly, perhaps the biggest point, 35,000 people were actually employed in these new industries in the early 1960s. That's a really big amount, and that really improves Northern Ireland's economy at that stage. So 35,000 people. Remember that number, okay? Alright, good. However, although there is successes, you have to balance this out by understanding that there are underlying weaknesses to this success as well too. So you can see if there's two different sides to things, well, that there definitely makes it a bigger question in terms of exams. Okay, so if we're looking at limitations here, one limitation was that old industries such as linen and shipbuilding were often in serious decline from foreign competition. Okay, although linen mills were in Belfast, slowly the mills started to run out of steam, okay, and stop. There's no market for a lot of the goods. That had a big effect. Secondly, Harland Wolff shipbuilding, well, it's still going on. It's teetering the edge, but it's still going on. And the reason it was still allowed to go on was because the Unionist government really felt they had to invest in the shipyard, because look at where it is. It's in East Belfast, very Unionist, very Protestant dominated area. All those houses around the shipyard, those people's families and that relied on the shipyard for work. So to see that go down would be a major catastrophe for the Unionist government. So they actually invested money in the shipyard to keep those jobs there. So sometimes even ships are made at a loss just to keep the jobs and to keep the yard going. So £1 million invested per year to keep it going. Even these cranes up here, the big cranes, you might have thought they've been there for centuries. They're actually only 1968, something like that they're put up. So not that old. Okay. Alright. The next thing is, where does the investment go? Well, the investment, as you can see, all of the new factories tend to go down this eastern side of Northern Ireland. So like Down and Antrim, okay, and parts of Armagh as well too. And the reasons why that happens is because look at where you're going to invest in. You're going to invest for places where you're close to the international airport, which is up here in Antrim. You're close to the major ports. You've got Larne over here. You've got Belfast here. You've got Warren Point down here. So it's your export markets. And the big centres of population are Belfast, Lisburn here. You've got Ballymena up here. And you've got Derry up here. Okay, so these are your major places where you can sell your goods. Now, you can see out west though, it's the River Bann goes down here. We actually say west of the Bann, it's across this section. This area here does not have the same amount of investment. Even Derry does not have the same amount of investment, and that is quite a political thing. A lot of people suggest that unionists have invested in areas where they maintain control. These are quite Protestant counties, and that is one accusation that's definitely made at the time. Okay, and the western counties tend to have quite a high unemployment rate, especially up near Strabane and Derry, Londonderry. All right. Okay. Next is the University of Ulster. So why is this here a major concern? Surely investment is a good thing. Well, it is a good thing, but it's where it's invested that became a problem. It becomes a political issue because the second biggest city in Northern Ireland is Derry, Londonderry, and it really did expect a new campus to be built in Derry, Londonderry, and there's a lot of people, Protestant and Catholic, wanted it built there. However, when the decision was made, they decided on Coleraine. It's a reasonably small, mostly Protestant town in County Londonderry, but certainly it's not the second biggest city in Northern Ireland, so a lot of protest about that decision. Next, look where these motorways go. You can actually tell it's a unionist government. You've got the second biggest city in Ireland is down in Dublin, down here, but look where the motorways stretch to. They go all the way out towards the west, and they stop not far over the River Bann, so it stops in Dungannon, and you've got one going all the way up here, and it heads out towards Derry, Londonderry, and stops. It stops like just past Antrim. Also there's a motorway up here around Ballymena, another quite a Protestant town as well too, so there's definitely accusations that these motorways, this infrastructure is built to link unionist communities rather than across Northern Ireland. Okay, so that's definitely an accusation that's been made. Right, next is unemployment. Unemployment remained stubbornly high at 78%, and much higher in the west of Northern Ireland as well too. So despite those new industries coming in, it was offset by factories that were closing, and the unemployment rate was quite reasonably high for the time. Okay, and this big figure is what you have to know. Again, 35,000 people were employed, but 20,000 people lost their jobs in those old traditional industries, shipbuilding and linen. So that's quite a big loss to Northern Ireland. All right, so that's all economics. Okay, you have to know that. You need to know the policies. You need to know why they want to do it. You know the strengths. You know the limitations. If you know that, you're flying. Okay. Next is political solutions. So we're going to try to figure out his political goals, how he tried to build relations with the Republic of Ireland, and how he tried to build relations with Northern nationalists. Okay, so O'Neill knew that economic transformation in Northern Ireland can only come about if accompanied by political transformation. You couldn't have one without the other. Prosperous Northern Ireland would also lead to a lot more political links, okay, and then a more stable society. He therefore embarked on a very politically risky but necessary process of trying to do two things. As you know, start a friendly relationship with Northern Ireland's closest neighbour, the Republic of Ireland, and to try to establish better relations with Northern Ireland's Catholic nationalist community, which make up 35% of Northern Ireland. Okay, and O'Neill, very pragmatic, says, look, you know what, we share the same rivers, the same mountains, and some of the same problems as the Republic of Ireland. Why not cooperate and let's try to sort these out together? Very pragmatic, makes sense. Okay, so he aims then to make friends with the Republic of Ireland. So in 1965, O'Neill met the Irish Taoiseach, really important name, Sean Lemass. Okay, Sean Lemass, this man down here. He meets him at Stormont in Belfast. It had been 40 years since the last meeting, so this is the same island, but 40 years since leaders of North and South had actually met up. So this is a big step forward for a lot of people, okay? and both leaders definitely risked a lot by this meeting, but both also realised that they had a lot to gain for meeting up. Economically and politically, cooperation could create a lot of benefits for Northern Ireland. Just to put this in context, O'Neill is an Orange man. His background is very unionist. He really believes in the UK and how it could benefit people. Sean Lemass is very nationalist. Okay, he's from he actually was involved in the Easter Rising. He was in the IRA back in the Irish War of Independence. So he's definitely a very nationalist background. So for these two to meet, it's quite a big thing. Alright, so there's a problem though. O'Neill was very unsure about his reaction from his own party. He knows a lot of them would definitely hate the fact that the Irish Taoiseach was coming up. They would get suspicious. So what did he do? Well, he kept the visit secret, even from his own cabinet. His cabinet is his special set of advisors, so he keeps it secret from them. That is obviously to stop any protests happening beforehand and stopping things getting out of hand. But it also leads to problems because they begin to get suspicious. What else is he up to? Are we going to find out things afterwards? Is this the road to United Ireland by stealth? So they start to get quite annoyed of him, and they start to really mistrust him as well too. Okay, so it's quite a big thing you have to remember. Next is making friends of Northern nationalists. Okay, so these are his policies for doing that. Now there's quite a few of these. Try to remember these as you go through as well too. Some key words, some golden nuggets here too. So what does he do? Well, first of all, he actually visits the leader of the leader of Ireland's Catholics, Cardinal Conway. Important name, okay? So he visits Cardinal Conway. It's the Unionist coming to visit Cardinal Conway. It's also an Orange man coming to visit Cardinal Conway as well too. In the 1960s, the Pope John the 23rd passes away. O'Neill actually, on behalf of the Unionist government, actually offers condolences on the death of the Pope. That's again quite a big thing for Unionists. He also visits Catholic schools and Catholic hospitals. So the schools in question would be Assumption Grammar School in Ballynahinch. The hospital would be the Mater, currently at the centre of the coronavirus sort of care at the minute, so really highly central at the minute. He visits that hospital as well too. And what's more, he just doesn't visit them, he actually promises them money. It's quite a big thing, so he promises them money as well too, for the first time. Right, what are the reactions? And this is important, okay? So you've heard the policies, what are the reactions to these? Remember, there's going to be two different sides. You're going to have people that agree, you're going to get people that disagree. So, on the agree side, well, Unionists, remember, they do not all disagree with him. You get quite a sizable amount that actually think, you know what, this is a step forward. And why? Why do they do that? Well, some really do think Northern Ireland has to modernise. They want Catholics to feel more secure. They want them to feel part of the United Kingdom and feel that that's the best way forward. And they feel if it's more prosperous and more secure within the Union, then that's good for them. Okay, so there are people that support him. Also, after he met up with Sean Lemass, there was an election, and the people voted what very clearly seems to be in favour of O'Neill. 38 out of the 52 seats in that election went to the OUP, which suggests that people are favourable to what he's trying to do. Okay, so things look okay for O'Neill. However, you do have a very sizable amount of opposition from within unionism as well too, and that is led by Ian Paisley. Okay, there are others as well, but Ian Paisley is the key mouthpiece. He is a fundamentalist Protestant. He very conservative views on religion and Christianity, and he actually sets up his own Free Presbyterian Church. What else? He's also completely opposed to Republic of Ireland and to the Catholic Church. He believes the Catholic Church in the South is a really huge influence on society, a negative influence on society. He does not have any dealings with that as well too. He also points out all the time that the Irish Constitution lays claim to the whole island of Ireland. That includes the 6 counties, and he believes that there is a highly negative influence as well too. So he's very against any form of agreements with the South. Okay. So we've got Unionists, Nationalists. Well, Nationalists actually react quite warmly to these different policies of O'Neill. In fact, they react in a way that actually suggests that there's definitely room for to move forward. The Nationalist Party had solely been based on United Ireland. They actually agreed to go into opposition in Stormont for the first time, so that means they agreed to go to Parliament, the Stormont, and meet there. That's quite a big thing. It's also recognising in a way the northern state that they don't recognise. Catholic leaders welcomed the reforms as well too. They saw it as a real step forward. However, you do know there's opposition. There's opposition from Ian Paisley, as you've already seen, and there's opposition from other members in the OUP itself. A lot of those were really opposed to him not telling them to keep it in secret, and you've got people like Brian Faulkner and William Craig who saw O'Neill as leading Northern Ireland in quite a dangerous direction. Okay, remember those names: Brian Faulkner, William Craig, and Ian Paisley. They would definitely oppose O'Neill most of the way through. And nationalists, well, nationalists, they do welcome it, but a lot of them look out and see what's happening on the ground. They get frustrated because what they are promised and what is delivered is completely different, and you know that some of those unionist policies as well really annoy them. Okay, so these are the reasons for nationalist frustration. First of all, O'Neill really raises their hopes for a quick change. He sees, a lot of them see that this is definitely a way to more civil rights, to better living conditions, and what happens on the ground is just not laid out the way they expect. Because remember, O'Neill might be the Prime Minister, but he needs the party support to actually get ahead, and a lot of his party is divided on ways forward. Unionist policies as well, they seem far from being inclusive to the Catholic community, and some of them seem as sectarian as ever. You have the likes of Craigavon being named after the first Unionist Prime Minister, so the whole city, this new city, was named after the first Unionist Prime Minister. You also have the advice on setting up a university in Derry, Londonderry being ignored, and instead that new university being built up at Coleraine. Again, looks to be quite a sectarian policy as well too. High unemployment in the western counties in Northern Ireland, west of the Bann. A lot of Catholics think this is definitely unionist orchestrated as well too. And there's continued discrimination in government jobs. A lot of those jobs, a lot of the houses are all going to Protestants instead of Catholics. Okay, now I have set out this mind map that you can actually download as well. They're all available on the website as well too. Okay, hopefully this is useful. Lots and lots of links in this here. Okay, so try to do the quizzes, try to do the BBC Bite Size, go to the Lagan History website and look at all the videos on the website as well. It'll definitely help you out. The next section we're going to do then is NIGRA. Okay, so hopefully this has been useful. Take care. Bye.